What's up? I'm Margot from MovieMaker, and you're about to watch me interview Raffaello Degruttola about his movie Transference, A Love Story. It stars Degruttola, who wrote and directed the film, in the lead role of Nick, a nurse who finds himself in a passionate love affair with fellow nurse Katerina, played by Emilie Sofie Johannesen. Their story delves deep into the intersection of love and mental health. Oh, and I should mention, Transference, A Love Story has an incredible 13 million views on YouTube. Here's Degruttola to tell us how he did it.
It's basically a psychological love story that falls apart because of secret mental health issues that start to corrode it over a period of time through the eyes of two immigrants that are working in London. I wanted London to feel like a European city rather than just a British city, and I felt that worked through the eyes of these immigrants. It is loosely based on a parent's story, so I'd written a script over 10 years ago and then put it away. And I actually thought I'd never be able to make it because I thought, how will I ever find someone who looks young but isn't, and is an immigrant, understands coming to a foreign land, all of that stuff. It just became such a big task. I kind of put it aside and thought this would be a £2 million film at the very least. There's no way I'm going to make it unless I have a big production company behind me. But then I started to learn about dogma rules, using the environment around you, and so on and so forth. I'm, here today.
Wow, how did you get the idea for this story? Like, where did this begin for you?
Okay, so initially followed the journey of my parents coming to the UK from Italy. Later on in years, my father developed bipolar, and I saw how that affected the marriage. So that was something I was immersed in, and it meant that I was able to learn about how that I learned to separate the mental illness from the person. That's what I did as a child somehow. And so I really wanted to tell that story in a way that was fair to both characters as much as I could.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful movie, and I just have to ask, like, how did you get this many views? Because we should know, for everyone watching this, if you're an indie filmmaker, so you didn't release this on your own YouTube channel. You released it on 1091 Pictures Free Movies channel on YouTube, which already has over 1 million subscribers. But your movie still has a huge amount of views compared to most of the other movies on that channel, like several million more. So clearly you're doing something right here, and I'm wondering, what is your secret?
I wish I could answer that. I wish, who knows what the magic spell is. I don't have it, but I think if I were to say anything, would be to really make something from the heart and then hope for the best, obviously. But I would say not having anybody to corrupt the story that I wanted to make. So reducing too many producers around me with too many influences, unless I felt it was really supporting the story of these two characters. Working with a minimal crew really helped. Making sure that everybody involved was there without ego driving them, but the actual project at the forefront. And I know that comes from me, who's written, directed, produced, and acts in it, but part of that was just to sort of keep a secure, very sort of creative unit and not corrupt it. I just wanted to keep it pure to the story and to these characters, and again making sure that both characters were represented in a way that was fair, I feel.
How did you end up connecting with 1091, and why did you decide to release this on YouTube rather than going the traditional route?
Well, I wanted it to be on Netflix, like every filmmaker. I wanted it to be on Amazon. I wanted it to be on the big channels, and they released it on those. And it had a few hits. It was getting seen here and there, but nothing extraordinary. And then they said, we want to try YouTube for you because something's growing on there and it's interesting. And I was a little bit reluctant at first, I must say, because I felt like I didn't know if YouTube had a badge next to it that really delivered films of substance. I hadn't seen anything on YouTube myself. So anyway, I went with it, and Bill Bossett, who was an exec producer on this film, he's from Connecticut, called me in 3 weeks and he said, "Have you seen the views on this?" And I was like, "No." He said, "You started to hit 30,000 plus a day already." And I was like, "Wow, did not expect that." What we don't know what caught, something caught, and the momentum built and the ball started rolling.
So it could be like a YouTube algorithm thing.
I guess so. I do remember after a couple of weeks looking at the artwork actually, and I thought something in it I didn't like. So I created that new piece of artwork with her looking in the mirror and me behind her. And she had something about her persona in that. It almost felt like she was really in charge of the moment, potentially manipulating it. And that happened again in the bedroom artwork. And I asked 1091 if they wouldn't mind using that. And actually, when that new artwork went down, if I'm not mistaken, that's when numbers started to grow quite dramatically.
Okay, and this came out in, was it 2020 or 2021?
Okay, 2020, but it didn't hit YouTube until 21. So it's been on for 1 year.
Okay, got it. Well,
So
that's
we're getting 1 million views a month. People are sharing it. I'm getting comments from all over the world. Initially, I think I'd said to you that it was countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Pakistan, Africa. Now it's switched to the USA. The USA is the biggest views every day. And then
what was your budget for the whole movie?
I spent £50,000 in cash. I would say hard cash. I think the film in value is probably closer to 300, 400,000 in value. Favors. I was getting a lot of good deals. The colorist, sound, all deliverables. Actually, some of the subtitles 1091 paid for first, and then they recouped the first amount of money. So from a filmmaker's point of view and an independent filmmaker's point of view, I'm now starting to see an income on a monthly basis. It's not spectacular, but as a filmmaker, and I've been doing this for 10 years, it's the first time I've started to see a revenue for a creative outlet.
I wanted to talk to you about like why do you think more filmmakers don't do this, and do you think that this what you did could be replicated by other people?
I took away the word formula when I started to make films. And I went, contravento means going against the grain, is probably the best kind of translation, going against the wind. And obviously I'd seen a lot of directors in the past, writer directors talking about and having a really good script, but I started to question why that wasn't being made. And that concerned me, that my lifespan was starting to move on and I wasn't able to put my work down on film. So after I made my first half an hour short, I made a couple of shorts just for exercises, but I thought I'm never doing this again, putting this work in and not making a feature film, because I know where short films go. They're great. They're fantastic business cards. They tell a story, but a feature film gives you a chance to really explore a narrative.
Yeah.
And I just thought, just keep going, jump in one step at a time, shoot a scene, get in the edit studio the next day, start to put it together. I used that to inspire the people around me, because money wasn't inspiring them. So they needed to be inspired by the work and how I was putting it together and the story I was trying to tell. Hyperrealism is the way I like to work in film, and working with the actors in that environment really inspires them as well, because they don't feel like they have to come with a major performance. It's much more of an internal process. And then once they were able to see that cut together, I worked with a fantastic editor and we really worked well together. I think again, momentum, showing people something tangible rather than a script.
Right. I think that's really interesting. We were talking about that before, that you decided to actually like make a mini version of your feature, not make a short, which I think most people, that's the way they approach it. But you just were like, here's a couple of scenes. Take a look at this. Why do you think that? Why did you decide to do that, and why does that work on people psychologically, do you think?
Well, I wasn't just using it on them, if I'm honest. I was using it for myself. I wanted to see if what I was doing had legs.
Mm,
This model is for me more about young or new filmmakers having a platform
mm,
rather than having a chance to show their work and see what happens. If you go with the intention of I want to make a movie, I want 15 million views, it's probably a negative starting point. I think it's like, let's make something that you really want to make and do it from the heart, and then you have a platform now. You can put it on YouTube. YouTube's amazing. There's how many billions of people watch YouTube, and then how many millions watch Netflix? I don't know, but I presume YouTube has the upper hand there. So it feels like for me, it feels like within the next 5-10 years, people, especially in the USA, obviously by my film, people are going to YouTube to watch movies because they don't want to pay subscriptions. So I really feel like if I didn't have 1091
mm.
and their subscription page, which is free, I don't know what the experience was like for you to watch it with all the commercials. I haven't actually done that. I don't think it would have had that many views.
Tell me about your past too, because I know, so you made a film before, I believe in 2014, Film the Movie. It's a great title. So how did that prepare you for this and all the acting that you've done?
Well, I'm mainly an actor, and over the years I've played, different roles, and I always wanted to start making my own stuff for a few reasons. One of which I felt marginalised as an actor in the type of roles I was getting. The stereotypical Italian, or thankfully for the Americans, I was getting a lot of American characters, and that started helping. But there wasn't stuff that lasted a long time I could really get my teeth into, and I've always loved European films, and so I wanted to do that. And then I was completely fascinated by the film Festen, the Danish film. That their 10 rules of making a film were like, wow, you don't need artificial light, you don't need music, you don't need this, you just need characters, actors that can tell the story, no murder weapons, blah, blah. And I thought, yeah, wow, I was inspired by that. So slowly that started to sink into my brain, and I started to think, how do I use my resources to tell a story? And
It's a cool story about kind of like the indie filmmaker's dream happening in a way that maybe you didn't expect.
I think that's the only way you can go forward, is not to expect anything and just make your make your work, find a way to make it happen. If you can't do it on a grand scale, do it on a small scale. But I say to everyone, the commitment the second you walk in a room should be the same commitment you put in if somebody's walking in and paying you large amounts of money and Spielberg is directing. From an actor's point of view, you have to go 100% if you really want to be taken seriously. So you can shoot on anything now. Get a sound guy, shoot on anything, but tell me a story that affects me emotionally, and I think then you have half a chance.
Wow, that's great advice. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was really nice to meet you, and congratulations on such a successful movie.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.